Hi everyone, meteorologist Ed Valley here, taking a look at the long range for today, March 31st. It's just short of 9:30 Eastern here, and we're watching a pretty stout cold front move through the eastern U.S. here. That brought a lot of wind to the Ohio Valley overnight, and frankly, a lot of precipitation over the last 48 hours to a lot of people. And the key here is watching those areas that are dry, and if they can manage any of the precipitation during these systems. And there was some, and we want to talk quickly here about that precipitation over the last 48 hours. So this dates back to Tuesday morning, and you can see two things I think is fascinating here. Um, First, the plume of heavy moisture across eastern Kansas here, right into Missouri, southeast Iowa, even central parts of Iowa, and then over into Illinois and parts of central western Michigan, central western parts of Indiana, western Kentucky. This whole area, a half to 2.5 inches of rain. Really good moisture here. Now, I was speaking with our new hire, John, just a moment ago. You'll be hearing his voice in the coming days. Um, it's funny. The rich keep getting richer. It's not funny at all, but it's interesting. The rich keep getting richer in the east, and the poor continue to stay poor in the west. There was some decent moisture in parts of South Dakota, Minnesota, up to a half an inch or so. But a lot of these areas, you can see the numbers: a tenth, a quarter. Again, locally up to a half, but a half an inch is not going to break the drought in a lot of these areas, right? So while it's great that there was some moisture, it's important to also note that the heaviest moisture, frankly, was where they really didn't need it. Okay. And again, that's not to say that Illinois doesn't need rain. Everybody needs rain this time of the year, but um, the biggest deficits continue to miss the heavier rainfall amounts. So let's take a peek here at the latest drought monitor to kind of go along with that thinking. And what did we just talk about? We just talked about eastern Kansas, Missouri, parts of the Delta, and then up into the Ohio Valley here that saw most of this heavy rain. And it was kind of in this area here. And there's a little drought up in eastern Iowa and northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, but a lot of this area was already doing just fine. It's the areas to the west, this plains region out here. That's where the biggest issues are and continue to be and have been over really the past 6 to 10 months. So again, wanted to make sure we touch on that, and it doesn't it's not lost on us that we did see some improvement in the drought monitor here across parts of Iowa, parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, Missouri, eastern Kansas, the Delta saw some good rain, but again a degradation back in parts of the plains. Not good. So some winners, some losers. Pretty typical for the ag belt as a whole, right? But I think, again, it's important to note that the areas that really need that rain continue to, unfortunately, miss. So moving forward again today, we'll see some of that moisture, maybe a few flurries or snow showers east through tonight. Not a huge deal, but another system moves into the plains Friday, traverses the Midwest Friday night, and moves into parts of the Ohio Valley for Saturday. Total precipitation with that thing, you can see, could be a tenth to 3/4 of an inch in parts of the Midwest, which is obviously not a bad thing. Zooming in a little bit here, you can really see the winners and losers with this system. None to the north, but a good drink of water across the Midwest. And incredibly, some of this might fall in the form of snow. Again, it's still April. We talked about the frost times, the last frost dates yesterday. It ain't now, that's for sure. You still got plenty of time before winter is officially done, right? So let's go through the week ahead. Again, fast moving system Friday night, Saturday. Another system Sunday into Sunday night and into Monday from west to east. So the total precip between now and Monday looks like this. And let me actually take out what fell here today. There it is. You can see, let me actually pull up the most recent run. There it is. It's a tenth to 3/4 of an inch in most areas. Locally, though, maybe some places see a little bit more than that. But it's a situation where, generally speaking, It's the central and northern belt that sees the heaviest moisture here. Now, a bigger system continues to look likely here next week. And that's what we're going to talk about now, because the data, frankly, is pretty impressive. You see it developing here Tuesday. It's a two-pronged system, which is always tricky from our perspective, because it's hard for us to really pinpoint at this lead time, 6-7 days out, who's going to see what. So I want to pause here Tuesday afternoon. So you got, it's again, GFS two-pronged system. One system northwest, one system southeast. European, same idea, northwest, southeast. But look at how much more precip the European is spitting out as early as Tuesday, and then you move forward here. This secondary system is a much bigger deal on the European versus the GFS. So let me show you what I mean. GFS, system number 1 moves east. System number 2 is just a little showery. But you notice as we press into later Wednesday, the GFS has really nothing in the plains, but the European is much, much more active. And listen, it is early in the process. There's things that are going to change here. But when you look at the total precip from Monday to Friday of next week, it's clear as day that the European is much wetter. European is shown here. You see 1/4 to 1 inch in the plains. GFS is a trace to 1/4 of an inch. You see that? So frankly, we're not sure which one is correct yet, but I think it's important to note that middle of next week is the next divergence in the data and the next meaningful storm system on the horizon. So that's just something to keep in mind here moving forward. So that's a look at the next 7 to 10 days or so. And now I want to switch gears to talk a little bit about the long range, because we are seeing a reversal in this pattern coming up. So let's talk about that, and we'll start here looking at the forecast this weekend. This is actually valid next Monday. So two features here stand out to me. Big block coming into Greenland and a big trough in Alaska. And it's funny because they typically have different effects. This blocking in Greenland typically supports cooler weather in the central and eastern U.S., whereas this big trough in Alaska actually favors more zonal flow and more mild Pacific air coming in. So it's an interesting battle. But what's going to happen here, and you'll notice it looking at temps, it is cooler in the east corresponding to that block. But watch what happens as we get through next week. Initially, you'll see that block near Greenland start to erode. And by day 10, you're noticing some warmth developing in the central and western U.S. That's brief, and it's going to expand eastward as a trough digs in the 11 to 15 day in the western U.S. So look at day 12. Look at that trough. There it is. Ridge in the east. That is La Nina April. That is what we've been waiting for to happen on the modeling. We're starting to see it here in the extended range. And you notice by day 15, it's still there. Trough west, ridge east. Usually that indicates a risk for precipitation. The modeling, trying to show something in the 10 to 15, but it's still dry where it's unfortunately needed the most. Might come down to kind of the orientation of this trough, but I want to say the day 15 forecast between the data is very, very similar. European, GFS, Canadian. European, GFS, Canadian. That's about as close as you'll see a day 15 forecast looking at all the data. That is very impressive. And you look at the temperatures during that time, warm east, cool west on the Canadian, same thing GFS, same thing European. And what's amazing to me is look at how close these models are. They're almost identical, which adds a lot of confidence to us. So all of this is to say, looking at the MJO, we're looking to go into phase 7 and 8 here down the road, and notice cool west, warm east in phase 7, that lines up. And that also brings that precipitation risk we were talking about. So we'll watch that. And notice phase 8 does bring, so phase 7 has the cooler risk in the west. Phase 8 does briefly bring it back into the east. However, it's brief. We're already seeing more warmth show up in the plains. And if you look at this evolution here on the data from day 12 to day 15, notice how it's moving. This trough is moving from west to east. You see that? So I think the MJO is going to be the main driver of this forecast. So a trend in the warmer direction and probably the wetter direction. is likely the way to lean here as we head into the middle of April. So that's what we have for today. If you have questions, let us know, and we will be back here next Monday with another video. Have a great weekend.